Sometimes I feel like the life we're living is some circuitous maze. Twists and turns and ups and downs and bumps and bruises. There's just so much going on. But with a guidebook or maybe a special mentor, we could all feel a little more peaceful and trusting that the path that we're on is actually going to lead us to bliss. I am excited to present to you The Magical Unfolding by Helen Rebello. 8 magical processes for peace, potential, and purpose. Helen is on a mission to empower 100,000 women worldwide to fulfill their potential so that together we can contribute to a better world. Enjoy the conversation. Helen Rebello, thank you so much for your confidence in me and my team at Make Your Mark Global, for bringing your new book to the world. I am so excited to announce that The Magical Unfolding, 8 magical processes for peace, potential, and purpose is here in the world thanks to you. Thank you.
Yay, thank you. It's very exciting.
This is exciting because when we met, what was it, a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, like the journey you've been on in these 18 or so months has been, I know for you, transformative, but what has also transformed is this book. Like what you set out to do, I'm not going to give it away, but what you set out to do in the book proposal that I read, and this magical book that you are now presenting to the world, in just a short period of time, you've covered so much ground. It has evolved. Well, gosh, so many questions. First and foremost, why don't you just tell the audience, what does it mean? What did you mean by The Magical Unfolding? What's behind that title?
It combines a few different things. So the main elements really are, firstly, the idea that everything that happens to us in life happens to us for a reason, and it kind of takes us on a spiraling, unfolding pathway that ultimately helps us become who we came here to be, and it teaches us the things we need to learn, and through that process we kind of come home to ourselves. We find out what our strengths are, what we care about, what matters to us, what lights us up, what doesn't. So it's partly celebrating that by sharing some of my journey, which I don't want to kind of do the whole interview right at the beginning, but my journey has not been an easy one.
Yeah.
But still, I've come out the other side so grateful for it. So that's one element of it. And then the other element of it is that I created a process, or the process kind of created itself through my work that I've been doing for 14 years or so, one-to-one with people, to take them on a journey from feeling really sort of stuck and overwhelmed and not really knowing what to do about that, how to get out of it, to then going through this kind of lovely journey to becoming more self-expressed and self-aware and peaceful, and knowing what they're here for, knowing who they are, knowing what they're all about, and learning how to then navigate their way through life in a much more centered, grounded fashion, so they no longer get buffeted by everything around them. And that process is the magical process. So this book, yeah, it's somewhat magical because it sort of wrote itself in a way.
Now, when did you first have this inkling that you wanted to write this book?
A long time ago, actually. I would say the idea for this specific book probably came to me about 4 or 5 years ago. I've wanted to write a book since I was a kid. I've always loved writing, but I think, as you know, I'm sure we've talked about this, I buried that instinct for a very long time to go off and get a proper job and and you know, not indulge myself. So that it's been simmering away forever. I've always wanted to write a book, but this particular one, it sort of made itself known to me, and it was about 4 or 5 years ago, and the catalyst to make me actually take action and turn it from this thing in the back of my head that many of us have, that you could quite easily ignore, into a tangible, no, I need to sort this out and do it thing. The catalyst was that sadly I lost my sister-in-law, Tony, to cancer. And it was just one of many wake-up calls in life that made me just think, right, you need to share this stuff with the world, and you need to get over yourself, and this is your time. Let's just take some action and do it. And so yeah, here we are now. It's taken a long time. I'm not going to pretend any different, but
that's okay,
as it needed to unfold.
Exactly. And so I want to get into how it's unfolded. There's so much I want to explore. But one of the things that I feel is really important about this book is that it is ideal for anyone who feels like their life is kind of turned upside down, that they have lost connection with who they really are. You said this a moment ago. It helps us, you know, we magically can return home understanding who we really are, what we value, what we're really meant to do in life, as opposed to what you and I did, squashing away our true desires and going down a certain career path or a study path. So I love that what you're doing is something that my mother used to talk about. My mother used to say, your destiny is best viewed from the rear view mirror. It's after things have happened that you're looking back going, oh, now I see the thread. Now I see. And so what I love about the magical process, these 8 processes, is that you're basically helping us like clean off our rear view mirror and put into perspective, like, how did I get to where I am? How do I put these pieces together so that I arrive at a sense of peace and confidence that I'm going to make it through this, whatever that stormy period of life is, or embarking on a new, more conscious path in life. Would you think that is a fair way to describe what this book can do for people?
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I would never have expressed it quite like that. But hearing you say it, ironically, as you're talking about looking back at things, you know, in the mirror, that's a perfect way to express it. Absolutely. Because what I'm doing through each of the processes, without giving too much away, is that I am definitely helping people kind of dig a little bit and make peaceful happen, find gold, find the gems within that, and start realizing just how much they have to contribute, how many amazing qualities they already have, but also stop fighting with the aspects of themselves they don't like. So yeah,
boy, that's a huge part of my own journey. But I want to talk, if just before we get into more of the book, I want to explore a bit of the process that you experienced as a first-time author. Now, you had already been blogging, you've been helping people with written words, but with this journey with producing your first book into the world, how has that been for you? Because as your publisher and your friend watching from the outside, I saw you go from one state of being into another. And I want to see how you describe it before I give you my take.
I love this question. So the process of writing actually really surprised me, because I do kind of inherently write. You know, I've written what I call love letters to my tribe for quite a long time, infrequently, but when I write them, people love them, and I always get feedback about them. And you know, I'm quite used to expressing myself in written form, and I download words every morning. I quite often share them on Instagram, and they're unedited, they just come through me. And I thought the process of writing the book would be the same. But actually, I found that I did enter a very different space. My routine for writing was different. My time of day to write was different. I really leaned on my tools that I was writing about. So I really, really learned how important my meditation practice is, how important my yoga practice is, how important it was to change it up, shift environments, things like that, and actually how important it was to access something far bigger than me, and lean into a sense of trust and kind of two-way communication with the universe. And it became a slightly, actually no, not slightly, a very humbling process, because I don't think it was ever about me anyway. Although I was sharing my story, I was sharing it from the perspective of, look if I can transcend this, you can too. It was kind of never pour me, look at my story. It was more like, don't use me as an excuse because you might look at me and think I got it all sorted. Kind of look at the things that have happened and look at how I've used them and turned them around. So please don't give yourself a get out, because if I can do this, you can too. So if that makes sense, it could have been about me, but it wasn't. It was always about my tribe, but it became about that in just a much bigger way. It was just pure service, pure heart on a page.
Yeah. And that's what I sensed. Even before I got the draft that you submitted, I got that sense from you in hearing or reading your messages to me about, oh, I just decided to cut out certain parts that I had already written, and I'm getting whole new information downloaded. What I've noticed for myself as a writer, and certainly now being a publisher, is I've noticed that when a book wants to be birthed into this existence, this 3D world, it has its own destiny. Some people might even say it has its own karma, its own dharma. And we are meant to be the vessel for that. So even though in our mind, I think we get this insight like, yes, I'm going to write a book, or people tell us, oh my gosh, you should write, you should write, you should write. And when we finally say yes, we think it's about us. Like, oh, well, am I good enough? And well, maybe I need to take time off of work and I need to do all these things. And then there comes a moment. And this is what I saw with you. I saw this moment, well, I saw it via email, of surrender, where I could tell you had shifted into a whole new state. You're like, yep, it's flowing through me. Forget all these ideas of deadlines and forcing it and making it this and that. It's just like I could sense that this was something that had to just come through you, and you put ego aside to let it flow.
Yeah, very much so.
Isn't that magical? Isn't that what the magical
it's
unfolding?
Totally magical.
It's like it's an encapsulated version of the magical unfolding of a book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think I said to you by message one day, there was this particular day where all of the tools and the training and all of the energy stuff, energy techniques, and all of these things that I wanted to share, I realized that a lot of it just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't translate in a book form. But the reason I'd kind of accessed all of that was because it was helping me get into the space to write. So it still played a part, just not in the way that I thought it would originally.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just have to surrender, don't you?
You don't have to, but it certainly works a little better when you do.
It definitely works better.
So one of the things that we have in common, and one of the things I believe that the magical unfolding will help people with, is getting to a sense of self-acceptance. As you know, like you, I denied and hided, I hid certain parts of myself from myself, not even just from the world. And so I'd love it if you'd share a little bit about your own journey Like you knew very early on that you wanted to be a writer, and then, you know, some conversations at home made you feel like that wasn't possible. And so, like me, you went down these various roads. And I think that there are a lot of people that can relate to this idea that they had some epiphany in childhood where they thought, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And then through peer pressure or parental pressure, or sometimes life just forced us to make certain decisions to kind of get through or get along, we got deviated from some of those innate dreams or aspirations. Eventually, thank goodness, many of us do return to them.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people will relate to your story. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how that was for you and how you ended up acquiring all these talents and abilities along the way through your training?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a long story, so I will try to summarize it to the most important things. But basically, I had a champion at school. I had a teacher, an English teacher, who really believed in me, called Mrs. Grace, and she loved my writing. And I think she was probably the only person in my memory, possibly not, but in my memory, she's the only person that really believed in me. And that was the one thing I could do without really thinking about it. You know, I'd do an exam or something, an English exam, think I'd really done poorly in it, and then I'd get an A every time. So it's just one of those things where I'm not bigging myself up, but you know how you don't know what you're good at. It never feels like you're really particularly good at it because it just came so easily. It's just part of my natural thing. And then I remember really clearly that I wanted to do an English degree in English. But by that stage, I'd already left home, and I left home at 18, having had a very tumultuous few years with my parents because we were so diametrically opposed in so many ways at the time. Um, and it was partly the messages they gave me about needing to get a career, because, you know, a few generations back, that was the important thing. It's so much has shifted, we forget sometimes. You know, our parents that would have given us these messages were doing it from the purest place because they wanted us to go out and be independent and be able to rely on something. And so so I listened to that eventually, having fallen out with them for a few years. I started thinking, maybe they do know what they're talking about. And also by that stage, I was self-supporting. So I did need to go off and do something sensible because I did need to get a job. I needed to pay my bills and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I got logical and ended up actually going into nurse training, became a student nurse. Did not fit the mold at all. Too many rules, too many suppressing yourself type of rules at the time. Certainly couldn't have hair that might be a sort of slightly different shade of red every day. You know, couldn't have your earrings showing or anything like that. It was really regimented, and I hated it. And then I hated the fact I couldn't speak to patients. So eventually I got pensioned out because I hurt my back. Win, thank you, universe. And I had a few years where I lost the plot a little bit, but then I ended up going into radiography, trained as a radiographer. Knew halfway through the degree I hated it, kept going because I just thought, well, I might as well get a science degree and I can use it for something else, and at least it's vocational and I'll get a job. And so there are lots of other things that happened, but essentially what I did was I prioritized what was going on in this. It was very sensible. Follow your head, completely ignore my heart, and let's just focus on practicalities and really what's known to us in society. Because of course this was before the internet, before people like us came along and started sharing things online and working with people and doing blog posts. None of that was around then. We didn't know that we had an option. So I was just told, if you do an English degree, all you can do is be a teacher. I definitely didn't want to do that. I had a very checkered history with school, apart from this one teacher. So yeah, and then one day it all got a bit too much. I'd specialised in ultrasound. I realised now that there were lots of things happening within that career that clashed with what I now know to be my values. Didn't know that at the time. All I knew is that I was finding a conflict between what I was supposed to do in my job and how that felt to me, and I ended up getting quite depressed, anxious, literally having panic attacks every time I tried to leave the house, really hating Sunday nights, Monday mornings, that horrible thing where you just think, I can't do it. And then I'd go into work and nobody would know because I was so good at putting on a face and pretending, and I remember people saying to me, you're always smiling.
Mm-hmm.
And years later, I was like, yeah, it's because I'm really good at pretending and putting a face on, because that's what I was taught to do growing up. And so eventually it just got too much and I broke. But by then I'd met my lovely husband, who is my champion and always has been. And he helped me, again, use my head, get quite logical, and look at the skills I had, what I could use to remodel. And then I somehow found shiatsu again. Now I feel like it's just magical, and that set me off on a path of opening me up to other ways of looking at the world. And long story short, eventually accessing my heart and reclaiming that creativity, being a writer.
Mm-hmm. I love that, because that tumultuous and windy pathway that you lived, so many of us do. And I know so many of my clients are like perfect for reading this book and following the magical process, because you do offer just a beautiful, logical, but also a heart-based, intuitive way to get back to your true self, to get back on track, to not feel like, oh my God, I've wasted half my life. Now what am I going to do? And because that happens to us, right? When we realize, what have I done? I've gone down this career path and now I'm in debt, or, I went down a relationship path, and then you realize, what have I done? Now half my life is gone.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I love this disclaimer that you put in the book. You said, warning, this book may induce feelings of excitement, possibility, and hope. Please proceed only if you are prepared to consider that your life can feel full in all the best ways, without you having to change everything, stomp all over people, or become someone you're not. So I just love that, because it sums up the authenticity that you're helping us to reconnect with.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I think it's really, really important for people to know that they haven't failed, and that they are enough, and that nothing is wasted. It's never too late. And just to stop being hard on themselves and beating themselves up and thinking they failed. So the disclaimer came from that place.
Yeah, and I think we all need that. So I love that it is about reinstilling hope and faith that what's inside of us is still there. We haven't destroyed it, broken it, so disconnected from our heart and our true self that we can't get back on track. Yeah. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about layers. It's our core never leaves us. We came into this world with it. It's never gone. It just gets lost. We just wear so many coats, being so many different things to people, that we kind of forget we're wearing them, and we just put a few more on. And we think it's gone, but it hasn't. And all the stuff that happens to us, it teaches us what we need to know. So, to some extent, as hard as it might be to do all this stuff, to go through all these avenues, and I know you've done this too, to go off on these tangents, and for me to get to almost 50 now and be only now really expressing this, I could be like, oh my God, why did I wait so long? Well, I just think, well, so be it.
Yeah.
Better late than never. Great. If I can help someone else get to this point sooner, great.
So I love that you mentioned this idea of taking all these coats off that we wear, that we've put on, that we've lugged around through life. And I love that process number one is about unfolding your cape of possibility. So we aren't going to go through all 8 of these processes, but at least explain this first process out of the magical unfolding. Unfold your cape of possibility. Tell me about it.
As people listening to this will probably have realized by now, to some degree, I am a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I'm a bit irreverent. I don't like to take things too seriously. But in a way, process one is about people giving themselves permission to put down their superwoman cape, which is the thing as women, especially men too, that we all wear, trying to be all things to all people and, juggle everything. And juggle way more than our ancestors ever did. And, just then thinking we've failed because we can't quite hold a million things together. So it's a permission piece. Process one is about permission to put that superwoman persona to one side for a bit, knowing that there's nothing wrong with her and that she can come back at any time, and instead to embody this sense of possibility. And kind of, it's like this energy, it's playing with this energy of, let's go on a bit of a journey and a bit of an adventure, and just imagine you're wearing this new cloak that is filled with all these wonderful tools, self-care tools, and tools that will help you stop procrastinating, tools that will help you to not trip yourself up. So it then creates that energy of possibility. And of course, there's lots more to it than that in the book itself, but I'm trying not to give everything away. but it's setting the scene, and I think that's really, really important. It's almost like a pre-foundational step.
Yeah.
And it enables people the energy of possibility. It enables people to tap into the energy of future them.
Yes.
And I think when you can connect to a sense of future you, there's something quite magical starts to happen. You start to almost tune into a sense of possibility that future you could be more expressed or more fully embodied, more grounded, more centered, more peaceful, more purposeful, all of those lovely things. And it starts you shifting your energy towards future possibilities, as opposed to looking back at past regrets and all that. It's a very different energy. So
it's a more freeing energy. This idea of permission and possibility, it just invites us to try on hope once again. That we don't have to be locked into a prison sentence of our past. And it's like saying, well, what if this version of yourself that maybe you've always wanted to be, or now you're just totally creating something that you've never even dreamt was possible. But it's the magic of what if is what I see.
Absolutely. And I think the loss of that energy of what if, the loss of hope, that feeling of being really stuck, that's what drags people down. And they just find it really hard to get out of that space. So this is a gentle, kind of light-hearted, let's not put too much pressure on ourselves way of shifting from that place and opening up to whatever might come.
Mm-hmm. So we have these 8 processes. So the magical process starts off with unfolding your cape of possibility, and really takes the reader through first. Next step is owning your miraculousness. And you are out there listening, you are a miracle. There is miraculousness in you. embracing your uniqueness, which was a hard one for me, but it's definitely one that I feel like now is part of my superpowers. And then you actually, process number 4 is uncovering your superpowers. And how has it been in your own work, like working with clients who've come through traumatic stuff and depression and anxiety? Do you find that it's difficult for people, embracing your uniqueness is already a challenge, but then getting to that next step of saying, you know what, I actually might even have superpowers in this life. Do you find that difficult?
For me personally, I don't find it at all difficult anymore, because it's become so much a part of, it's part of my daily practice. So for me now, it seems almost impossible to not tune into my superpowers, because it's just become an inherent part of who I am and what I'm about and what I do. But because, like you, because I have a lot of scientist in me, and I have a lot of Western medical kind of background experience, if I am sitting here saying that, having been a very linear, head-based, analytical person to some degree, then I don't think it's unrealistic for me to say that other people can access that state too. But what is required is a lot of patience and self-kindness. And I think what I've seen happen with clients because a lot of my clients have come from similar backgrounds, because of course that's what tends to happen with any of us doing these kind of things. We work a lot with people who are where we used to be or have similar stories. It just happens like that. So what I found with a lot of people, that initially when they come to me, they are very head-based, very analytical, and they're trying to figure things out very much from the using the conscious mind, and they're quite disconnected from the neck down. So the concept of being able to feel your feelings is lost on people until they start getting more into their body. The concept of being aware of your breath, really, really simple things. It doesn't have to be complicated. Or really noticing your feet on the ground, noticing what you're doing with your body, is lost on people. But when you start teaching them how to tune back into that, and you start sort of teaching them how to do practices themselves that help with that, really simple, easy practices that help with that, they start to realize that they are feeling more things within their own body. And then you can start playing with exercises to see how they tune into things like, can you feel the surface of your skin, and they start sort of tuning into more subtle things. And then again, it awakens this little ray of possibility within them, so that slowly but surely, as they shift and their body becomes less compressed and more expansive, they start to realize that maybe there are a few superpowers they can access within themselves after all. And so it's quite an organic process, but anybody can do it for sure. Some people access it super quickly, some people it takes a long time. But one thing I know for sure is if you start, you'll get there a lot quicker than if you just never do anything and you're just totally skeptical. So does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
On a tangent there.
No, it totally does answer the question. So I think that that's a perfect place for us to transition. Yeah, this is going, if you start, you're definitely going to get there. So as much as we might think, oh, this is going to be hard, reclaiming my life and who I really am and my superpowers, no, it's an organic process.
Yeah.
Helen has just done the fabulous work of making it sort of systematic for those of us that like to have little recipes to follow. So definitely make sure that you pick up your copy of The Magical Unfolding, 8 Magical Processes for Peace, Potential, and Purpose. So Helen, tell me, what is your desire or your biggest wish for this book now that you are releasing it out into the world?
I would love it if this book touches the hearts of anybody who is willing and ready to receive the messages within it. And I have a number that downloaded into my head one day from somewhere, which was that I want to help 100,000 women essentially open their hearts, find the courage to become who they came here to be. And I don't believe necessarily that this book will reach 100,000 women. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, who knows? But what I'd love is if it reaches enough women that then those that have read it and embodied the messages in it can then kind of empower and ripple out those messages to other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd just love it to reach anyone it can benefit.
Yes, no limits, no constraints, 100,000, why not? Yes, absolutely. But I definitely see that it will have that ripple effect, because I believe as you change one life, you are creating a ripple of transformation that touches so many more lives that we won't ever even know.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely noticed that just your presence in my life has had that sort of an impact. So I am very optimistic for this book and where it's going.
Oh, thank you. And likewise.
Thank you, my love. So how can people connect with you?
The best way to connect with me right now is I've got a lovely new website which is in progress, so I'd love people to go over and check out the new website, which is www.helenrebello.com. I'm creating a movement called the Magical Life Movement, and people can go on there and they can download that and have a look at what it means to live a more magical life. And then if they do that, they're on my email list, and I can tell them about all the lovely stuff that's coming up, or they can just email me, hello@helenrebello.com, and I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook a little bit, but I love Instagram, so I'm Helen Rebello author on Instagram.
Yes, I see that that's your place to shine, and
I love Instagram.
Yeah, share your inspiring quotes, and I love it.
Yeah, I love it. So I changed all my little tags, my social media tags. I changed them to Helen Rebello author where I could. So that's what I am on Facebook and Instagram now. And that was like me claiming and saying to my 8-year-old self, we did it.
Yes.
We made it. It took a while, but we're here now. It's all good.
I love it. I love it. And that is our wish for everyone who reads this book, that you too will be able to reclaim that sense of wonder, possibility, and return home to who you really are, so that you can express that and share it with the world. So thank you again, sincerely. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for trusting us at Make Your Mark Global to bring the magical unfolding to the world. I'm super excited, and I know that in our next conversation we can maybe get into a little bit more in the book, because I learned some things when I was reading it that I was fascinated by, that I definitely want you to explore. Like, for example, your husband, and how the universe was like, hello, and you're like, no, hello. I love it. I love it.
I am more than happy to talk about all of that stuff, because it is magical.
It is.
It is, yeah.
So join us, my friends, join us in this magical life movement that Helen has started. I believe that if we just even embrace that as a possibility, that our lives can be magical, you're going to find as you read this book all the traces of magic that Helen has seen in her life and what she's helping her clients experience as well. And that's possible for everyone. So thank you again, Helen. I'm super excited for this book.
Everything.
And thank you to those of you that are watching and tuning in. Support the author by getting a copy of the book. You can find it online at Amazon and all your favorite online retailers, in print or in digital. And maybe we can even wrangle Helen to create an audiobook version. But, no pressure, no pressure. But please do support Helen and join the Magical Life Movement. Until next time, my friends, remember that you are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love. Did you enjoy that interview? I sincerely hope so. If you did, remember to click that like button and share this video with someone else who needs a little positivity sprinkled into their life. And please do support the author by purchasing the book at your favorite bookstore. If you or somebody you know would like to spread your own message to the world, then check out our publishing options online at makeyourmarkglobal.com. We specialize in helping healers, coaches, lightworkers, and other soulful entrepreneurs who want to share their message with a global audience. We also do speaker training and authentic personal branding. I look forward to connecting with you again, and until then, remember, my friend, you are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love.